I almost deleted the email without reading it. A high school reunion? No, thanks. But then, Tom's name caught my eye. Tom, the guy the first had a crush on for the better part of my teenage years. I could practically hear his voice as I read the invitation. Oh, Tom, you charming devil, inviting me to a night of awkward reminiscing and mediocre finger food. I knew Mark wouldn't approve, not that he'd say it outright, but the disapproval would be there in the tightness around his eyes. Still, the idea of seeing Tom again, of feeling that spark, was too tempting. Nostalgia won this round. The night of the reunion, I slipped into a black dress that managed to be both simple and elegant. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Okay, maybe I was. But it was just Tom, right? Walking into the hall was like stepping into a time machine. Laughter and old songs filled the air, and there he was, Tom, with his lingering gazes and subtle touches. Every time his hand brushed against mine, I felt a spark, a jolt that woke something inside me that had been asleep for years. After the event, Tom suggested a drink at a nearby bar. Spontaneity isn't exactly my forte these days, but why not? It's not every day you get to have a drink with your teenage dream. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, lubricated by a couple of cocktails. With each drink, the distance between us seemed to shrink. Tom's compliments, his easy smile, they made me feel desired, alive. When was the last time I felt like this? Probably before laundry became my full-time job. Tom insisted on walking me home, a gentlemanly act that felt strangely intimate. The night air was cool, the kind that makes you feel more awake, more alive. Our conversation turned personal. Tom confessed his long-standing admiration for me, and I blushed like a schoolgirl. As we reached my doorstep, an unspoken tension hung in the air. I was exhilarated and confused, a dangerous mix. The next morning, I found a text from Tom thanking me for the evening and expressing his desire to see me again. My heart raced as I read and reread his words. Guilt mixed with excitement. I knew this was crossing a line, but damn it, I wanted to see him again. I decided to reply, agreeing to meet him for coffee. It's just coffee, right? Harmless. Our coffee meeting was filled with flirtatious banter and stolen glances. Tom's presence was intoxicating. I found myself drawn to him more than I had anticipated. We discussed our lives, dreams, disappointments. There was a depth to our conversation that was missing from my everyday life. With each word, I felt more connected to him. Tom admitted he was going through a rough patch in his marriage. Ah, the perfect excuse for two married people to tiptoe into dangerous territory. His confession resonated with my own struggles. Marriage isn't exactly the fairy tale they sell you, is it? We bonded over our shared disillusionment, and I felt my guard slipping away. By the end of our meeting, I knew this was more than just a rekindling of an old friendship. I walked away from that coffee shop with a mixture of exhilaration and dread. This was playing with fire, but the thrill was undeniable. I wasn't just a housewife. I was Emily, the woman who could still feel alive, still feel desired. And damn it, I wasn't ready to let that go. I should have known it would happen. We were having lunch in that tiny cafe, tucked away from prying eyes. The kind of place you go when you're doing something you shouldn't be. Tom leaned in and kissed me, and it wasn't just a peck on the lips. It was passionate, desperate, the kind of kiss that leaves you breathless and wondering if you'll ever catch your breath again. I tried to resist, honestly, I did. But my resolve crumbled like a cookie in a toddler's fist. My mind raced with conflicting emotions. What the hell am I doing? This is insane. But oh, how good it felt. We began meeting regularly at a small, secluded park. It was almost laughably cliché, like we were starring in our own trashy romance novel. We'd steal moments of intimacy, hidden behind trees or in the shadows. Each meeting intensified our affair. The secrecy added a thrill, a delicious danger that made my heart race. But along with the excitement, a creeping anxiety began to set in. What if someone saw us? What if Mark found out? Then came the hotel room. Tom booked it for our first night together. The anticipation was overwhelming. I felt like a teenager sneaking out past curfew. As we crossed the threshold, a mix of excitement and guilt churned in my stomach. The night was filled with passion and whispered confessions, a stark contrast to the mundane routine of my daily life. This wasn't just an affair. It was an escape, a break from reality. The next morning, guilt wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I struggled to act normal around Mark. His obliviousness only made me feel worse. I considered ending the affair, but the thought of letting go of Tom was unbearable. I was in too deep, caught between two worlds. One day, Tom showed up unexpectedly at my home. Mark was away on a business trip, and suddenly, there Tom was, standing at my door with that irresistible grin. We spent the day together, enjoying the illusion of a normal relationship. We cooked, laughed, and even watched a movie. For a moment, I allowed myself to fantasize about a life with Tom. It was a dangerous game, complicating my feelings even further. But not everything was smooth sailing. Our affair wasn't without its complications. Tom and I had our first argument over our conflicting schedules and the secrecy of our relationship. The fight was intense, filled with harsh words and accusations. But it ended in a passionate reconciliation, and in some twisted way, it deepened our emotional connection. I became adept at leading a double life. I balanced my time between my family and my secret meetings with Tom. The thrill of the affair kept me going, but the strain was starting to show. My friends noticed my distracted behavior, but I brushed off their concerns. I was living on a razor's edge, teetering between ecstasy and disaster. And so, my life became a juggling act, trying to keep up appearances while my heart raced with the thrill of forbidden love. Every text from Tom, every stolen glance, every secret rendezvous, they were like shots of adrenaline, keeping me hooked. But how long could I keep this up? How long before everything came crashing down around me? Lisa had a sixth sense for trouble, and I must have been sending out all the wrong signals. My best friend started noticing my frequent absences, the way I'd drift off mid-conversation, my phone always buzzing with mysterious messages. One afternoon, she cornered me with that concerned look in her eyes. "Emily, what's going on? You're not yourself lately." Oh, if only she knew. I plastered on my best innocent smile, laughed it off, and denied everything. "Lisa, you're imagining things. Just a bit stressed, that's all." But her suspicion lingered, making me feel more isolated than ever. In a desperate attempt to maintain some semblance of normalcy, I hosted a family dinner. The perfect hostess, that was me, smiling, serving, chatting away. But my mind kept wandering to Tom. The contrast between my cozy, domestic life and the wild, secret affair was suffocating. I could feel the walls closing in, the pressure mounting with every passing second. Our wedding anniversary was looming on the horizon, and Mark, blissfully unaware of my inner turmoil, planned a romantic getaway. Oh, joy, a whole weekend away to think about Tom and pretend I wasn't falling apart inside. The getaway was filled with forced smiles and awkward silences. I was a mess of conflicting emotions, torn between my obligations as a wife and my desire for Tom. Every romantic gesture from Mark felt like a dagger of guilt, twisting deeper. Then came the bombshell. While out shopping with Mark, we bumped into Tom. Just my luck. The brief encounter was loaded with unspoken emotions. I introduced Tom as an old friend, my heart racing with fear of discovery. Mark seemed oblivious, thank God, but the tension was palpable. Tom's eyes bore into mine, and I knew this was far from over. Tom grew increasingly jealous of my life with Mark. His constant pressure to leave Mark and be with him was maddening. I felt trapped, suffocating under the weight of my double life. The anxiety gnawed at me, and I could feel myself unraveling. Tom's jealousy turned into ultimatums. Leave Mark or end the affair. There it was, the moment I'd been dreading. I was devastated, cornered like a rat in a trap. Sleepless nights became my norm, the stress eating away at me. The affair, once thrilling and intoxicating, now felt like a looming disaster. I had to make a decision. It was tearing me apart. The thought of breaking my family was unbearable. So, I chose to end the affair. The decision felt like a heavy, suffocating blanket of sorrow. I met Tom one last time to tell him. The goodbye was heart-wrenching, filled with tears and regret. It was like tearing out a piece of my heart, but it had to be done. I promised myself to focus on my marriage, to move on. Easier said than done. Every day was a battle to forget, to push Tom out of my mind. I threw myself into my marriage, determined to make it work. But the echoes of our affair lingered, a ghost I couldn't quite shake. The thrill was gone, replaced by a hollow ache. I told myself it was for the best, that I was doing the right thing. But in the quiet moments, when the house was still and my thoughts were my own, I wondered if I'd ever truly move on. The withdrawal hit me harder than I expected. Ending the affair with Tom was supposed to bring relief, clarity, or some semblance of peace. Instead, it felt like a gaping wound. I missed him terribly. Concentrating on anything became a Herculean task. Work? Forget it. My performance nosedived, and every day felt like wading through molasses. At home, things with Mark were strained. The man couldn't figure out why his usually competent wife had turned into a moody, distracted ghost. Lucky him, I suppose, being blissfully ignorant of the internal war raging inside me. I couldn't bear the guilt anymore. One evening, with a trembling voice, I spilled everything to Lisa. Her shock was almost palpable through the phone. There was disappointment, of course. But she agreed to keep my secret. I could almost hear her brain working, trying to piece together the fragmented mess I'd handed her. She urged me to seek therapy. "You need to deal with this, Em," she said, her voice softer now, more like the Lisa I knew. "For your sake and for your marriage." Therapy was an experience. Opening up about Tom and my dissatisfaction with my marriage felt like peeling off layers of my skin, exposing raw, vulnerable flesh. The therapist's office became a place of both dread and reluctant comfort. I'd leave feeling lighter, only to be crushed by the weight of my own thoughts later. Progress was slow and painful, like crawling through broken glass. But bit by bit, some clarity started to emerge. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed with an unexpected text from Tom. "I can't stop thinking about you. Can we meet one last time?" My heart raced, fingers trembling over the screen. For a moment, I considered it. But sanity prevailed. Meeting him would only complicate things further. I replied with a firm but painful refusal. No more opening Pandora's box. Mark wasn't oblivious forever. He noticed my distant behavior, the way my eyes seemed to look right through him sometimes. He suggested marriage counseling. I agreed, reluctantly. Our sessions were grueling, filled with uncomfortable truths and awkward silences. But there were small signs of improvement. Little glimmers of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could fix what was broken. A work trip came up, offering a temporary escape. I hoped the distance would help clear my mind. Spoiler alert. It didn't. Being away from home made me miss Tom even more. Every hotel room felt like a reminder of our stolen nights. I struggled to balance my emotions, caught in a constant tug-of-war between my past affair and my present responsibilities. Through it all, Lisa remained a steadfast friend. She encouraged me to focus on my family and therapy, providing a listening ear and practical advice. Our friendship grew stronger, forged in the fires of shared secrets and whispered confessions. She became my anchor, keeping me from drifting too far into the stormy seas of my mind. Life was far from perfect. The wound still ached, and some days were harder than others. But slowly, ever so slowly, I began to piece myself back together. The aftermath of my affair with Tom left scars, but maybe, just maybe, I'd find a way to heal. Cleaning the house should come with a warning label, may cause unexpected emotional upheaval. I was knee-deep in dust bunnies when I stumbled upon a box of old photos. Among them were pictures of Tom and me from high school. Cue the floodgates. Memories came rushing back, bringing with them a potent mix of nostalgia and sadness. I sat there for hours, sifting through the past. Those carefree days, the innocent crushes, how did it all lead to this tangled mess? It was a bittersweet trip down memory lane, but also a stark reminder of how things had changed. A few days later, during a therapy session, I had what they call a breakthrough. It wasn't as dramatic as it sounds, no lightbulb moment or heavenly choir. But I realized something crucial. My affair with Tom wasn't just about him. It was an escape from my own dissatisfaction with life. This epiphany was like ripping off a bandage. Painful, but necessary. Accepting this was a step toward healing, a tiny sliver of clarity in the fog of my mind. Mark and I started making real progress in our marriage counseling. We began communicating more openly, addressing our issues instead of sweeping them under the rug. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, but for the first time in months, I felt hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, there was a future where our marriage could be saved. Of course, just as things seemed to be looking up, I had to go and like one of Tom's old photos on social media. Smooth move, Emily. Panic set in immediately. Would he take it as a sign to reach out again? The slip-up was a stark reminder of how fragile my resolve still was, how much I needed to work on letting go. To put the final nail in the coffin of my affair, I decided to write Tom a letter. Not one of those, "I miss you" letters, but a closure letter. I poured my heart out, detailing my regrets and hopes for the future. It was like bleeding onto the page, cathartic and painful. But once it was done, I felt a surprising sense of peace. It was time to move on. Mark, in his endless optimism, planned a family vacation to help us reconnect. I went along with it, albeit skeptically. But the trip turned out to be filled with moments of joy and bonding. Watching Mark play with the kids, laughing together by the campfire, it reminded me of why I fell in love with him in the first place. It was a crucial step in rebuilding our relationship, a glimmer of hope amid the chaos. Around this time, I met Sarah at a book club. Her positive outlook and supportive nature were like a breath of fresh air. We bonded over shared interests and late-night conversations. Sarah became a new source of support, helping me navigate the complexities of my feelings. Her friendship was a reminder that I wasn't alone, that there were still people who cared about me. Life was far from perfect, but it was moving in the right direction. The old photos, the therapy breakthrough, the letter to Tom, all of it was part of the messy, painful process of healing. I wasn't completely over Tom, not yet. But I was learning to live without the constant ache, to find joy in the present rather than being haunted by the past. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope for a new beginning. The promotion at work was a lifesaver. Suddenly, I wasn't just Emily, the woman grappling with a mess of emotions and secrets. I was Emily, the competent professional who just nailed a major career milestone. It boosted my confidence and gave me a sense of accomplishment that I desperately needed. I threw myself into my new role, finding satisfaction in my professional life that had been sorely lacking. It was a welcome distraction, a new chapter. But of course, life isn't that simple. Despite my progress, those pesky urges to contact Tom crept in occasionally. They usually hit at the most inconvenient times, like when I was alone with my thoughts, or when Mark and I had a particularly tense moment. I fought them off, reminding myself of the chaos it had caused, the heartache, and the progress I'd made in my marriage. But damn, sometimes it was like trying to hold back the tide with a sandcastle. Then, just when I thought I was getting a handle on things, Tom showed up at my office. Unannounced, of course, because why not add a bit of drama to my already complicated life? He wanted to talk. The look in his eyes was enough to make my heart skip a beat. I agreed to meet him for coffee because, apparently, I have a thing for emotional masochism. The meeting was tense, filled with unresolved emotions and awkward silences. Tom looked good, too good, and I hated that I noticed. He talked about how much he missed me, how he couldn't stop thinking about me. It was like a scene from a bad romance novel. But I stood firm. I had to. I told him it was over, for good this time. It was like tearing off a scab, painful but necessary. I walked away feeling a mix of relief and sadness, but mostly relief. One less ghost to haunt me. Just when I thought things might settle down, life threw another curveball. Mark had a health scare. It was a wake-up call, a brutal reminder of how much I still cared for him and how important our family was. Sitting in that hospital, waiting for news, I realized I couldn't imagine life without him. The thought terrified me, but it also solidified my commitment to our marriage. This was my reality, and I needed to cherish it. To celebrate our anniversary, Mark planned a trip to the place where we had our honeymoon. It was a mix of nostalgia and new memories, a chance to heal old wounds and strengthen our bond. We laughed, reminisced, and for a few days, it felt like we were back to those early, blissful days. It was exactly what we needed. I concluded my individual therapy sessions around this time. I felt more in control of my emotions and more hopeful about the future. Therapy had been a painful but necessary journey, and now it was time to focus on the present. I continued with marriage counseling, determined to keep working on our relationship. Mark and I established a new routine that included regular date nights and open communication. We worked on rebuilding trust and intimacy, finding joy in the small moments we shared together. It wasn't perfect, and some days were harder than others, but it was progress. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. Maybe, just maybe, we could make this work. Life had a funny way of throwing curveballs, but for now, I was ready to face whatever came our way. With Mark by my side and a renewed sense of purpose, I felt hopeful. The past was a series of painful lessons, but the future, well, the future was ours to shape. Lisa's wedding was an event I was genuinely looking forward to. Not just because she's my best friend, but because it felt like a chance to reflect on my own chaotic journey. Watching her walk down the aisle, the embodiment of love and commitment, I couldn't help but think about my own vows. How easy it is to say those words, and how damn hard it is to live by them. The wedding was beautiful, a celebration of everything good and hopeful in the world, and it gave me a moment to appreciate how far Mark and I had come. Then, of course, Tom had to swoop back into my life with an unexpected call. He wanted to meet one last time. I hesitated, knowing it could reopen old wounds, but I needed closure. The meeting was emotional, filled with unresolved feelings and bittersweet goodbyes. We acknowledged our feelings but agreed it was time to let go. Walking away, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. It was finally over. With that chapter closed, I threw myself into a new project at work. Channeling my energy into something positive felt incredibly satisfying. The project was a success, and my colleagues noticed my renewed enthusiasm and dedication. It was a reminder that I was capable, strong, and ready to move forward. Mark, ever the romantic, suggested we renew our vows. The gesture touched me deeply. The ceremony was intimate and heartfelt, a reaffirmation of our commitment to each other. Standing there, repeating those promises, I felt a profound sense of love and gratitude. We were rebuilding something beautiful from the ashes. Hosting another family dinner, this time with a sense of peace and contentment, was a stark contrast to the turmoil of the past year. The evening was filled with laughter and love, a reminder of the simple joys that had once seemed so elusive. It felt like a new beginning. That new beginning was solidified when I received news that Tom had moved to a different city, starting a new life. The news brought a sense of closure, knowing he was moving on too. I wished him well, grateful for the lessons learned. It was time for both of us to find happiness in our own ways. Mark and I attended a charity event together, something we hadn't done in years. The night was a success, and we felt proud of our contributions. It reminded us of the shared values that had initially brought us together. We were a team again, working towards a common goal. Reconnecting with old friends I had distanced myself from during the affair was another step towards healing. I apologized for my behavior, and they welcomed me back with open arms. These friendships became an important support system, helping me navigate the complexities of my feelings. Mark surprised me with an anniversary celebration, complete with a romantic dinner and heartfelt gifts. The effort he put into making me feel special touched me deeply, reinforcing my love for him. It was these small gestures that rebuilt our bond, piece by piece. We began discussing expanding our family, considering adoption. The idea brought excitement and hope for the future, giving us a new goal to work towards together. It was a chance to create something new and beautiful, a testament to our resilience and love. My involvement in the book club grew, and I started hosting meetings at our house. The club became a source of joy and intellectual stimulation, filling a void I hadn't realized was there. It was a small but significant part of my new life, a reminder of the importance of community and connection. Life had thrown its fair share of challenges our way, but we faced them head-on. Mark and I were closer than ever, and I had a renewed sense of purpose. The affair was a painful but transformative experience, leading me to appreciate what I had and work towards a brighter future. Each day was a step forward, a journey towards healing and growth. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about what lay ahead. Just when I thought life was finally settling into a comfortable rhythm, the universe decided to throw a new curveball. Out of the blue, I was offered a significant career opportunity. It was the kind of offer that could redefine my professional trajectory but came with a catch. It required a fair amount of travel. I discussed it with Mark over one of our newly instituted date nights. We decided to support each other, balancing work and family life like a pair of acrobats on a high wire. It was daunting, but also exhilarating. I mean, who doesn't love a good challenge? To ensure we kept our progress in check, Mark and I decided to continue seeing a marriage counselor periodically. Enter the new counselor, Dr. Collins. Fresh perspectives, new exercises, and a whole lot of, let's unpack that. It felt like we were constantly under construction, but the results spoke for themselves. We were navigating our ongoing challenges with a bit more grace and a lot less yelling. Just as we were finding our stride, Mark's business hit a rough patch. Financial strain added a new layer of stress to our relationship. Late nights became the norm, not just for work, but for those heavy, whispered conversations about how we'd manage. I supported him the best I could, offering practical help and emotional support. It was tough, but working together to overcome these challenges only strengthened our bond. Nothing says, "I love you," like managing a budget crisis together, right? Then, life decided it hadn't thrown enough at us. My mother fell ill, the kind of illness that required my attention and care. It was heart-wrenching, seeing her so vulnerable. But Mark's unwavering support during this time was a powerful reminder of our partnership. He picked up the slack at home without a single complaint, reinforcing his role as my rock. In the midst of all this chaos, I found a new purpose by becoming more involved in my community. Volunteering at local events gave me a sense of fulfillment and connection I hadn't realized I was missing. It was a small but significant part of my life that grounded me, reminding me there was a world outside of my own drama. And then came the kicker, an unplanned pregnancy. Talk about a surprise. The news was met with a mix of joy and terror. We were excited, yes, but the challenges? They were lining up like hurdles in a track meet. Still, we faced it head on, navigating this unexpected twist together. We signed up for prenatal classes, a bonding experience filled with anticipation and a fair amount of laughter. Watching Mark try to swaddle a baby doll was a highlight. Those classes weren't just about preparing for the baby. They were about us, getting ready for this new chapter together. Lisa, being the incredible friend she is, organized a baby shower. It was a celebration of love and new beginnings, bringing together friends and family in a way that made me feel cherished and supported. For the first time in a long while, I felt like everything might just be okay. Each event, each challenge, reinforced the strength of our relationship. We were no longer just surviving, we were thriving, finding joy in the chaos. The career opportunity, the financial strain, my mother's illness, the pregnancy, each was a test, and together, we passed them. Mark and I were closer than ever, ready to face whatever came next with renewed purpose and unshakable partnership. Life was unpredictable, but for the first time, I welcomed the uncertainty. After all, what's life without a few surprises? Giving birth to our baby girl was like stepping into another world. One moment, I'm a sweating, screaming mess, and the next, I'm holding this tiny, squirming human being. It was overwhelming, to say the least. Tears streamed down my face as I cradled her, this perfect little person we created. Mark was right there beside me, his eyes filled with awe and love. Holding our daughter for the first time deepened our connection and gave us a renewed sense of purpose. We were parents now, no turning back. The early days of parenthood were a blur of sleepless nights and constant care. I never knew I could function on such little sleep. Who knew that 3 hours of uninterrupted sleep could feel like winning the lottery? Mark and I navigated these challenges together, often stumbling and laughing through the exhaustion. Our partnership grew stronger with each passing day, as we learned to rely on each other in ways we never had before. Teamwork makes the dream work, or so they say. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you're both too tired to argue. Then came the first smile. Our daughter's tiny face lit up, and it was like the sun breaking through the clouds. That small but significant milestone brought immense joy to both of us. It was a reminder of the beauty of our new journey, a little beacon of light guiding us through the chaos of parenthood. Family support flooded in from all sides. Both our families rallied around us, offering love and practical help. Meals were cooked, laundry was done, and we were showered with more advice than we knew what to do with. This sense of community and belonging was invaluable, helping us adjust to our new roles as parents. It turns out, it really does take a village. Returning to work was a whole new challenge. Balancing my career with motherhood felt like juggling flaming torches while riding a unicycle. The transition was tough, no doubt about it. But with Mark's unwavering support, I managed to find a new rhythm that worked for our family. We were like two halves of a well-oiled machine, keeping everything running smoothly, or as smoothly as possible with a newborn in the mix. Life settled into a new normal, filled with the everyday joys and challenges of parenthood. Diaper changes, midnight feedings, and those precious moments of quiet when our daughter slept peacefully. I felt a deep sense of contentment, grateful for the journey that had brought me to this point. It wasn't easy, but it was worth every sleepless night and every moment of doubt. Looking forward, Mark and I often discussed our hopes and dreams for our family. We planned for our daughter's future and our own, committed to continuing our journey together, stronger and more united than ever before. We dreamed of watching her grow, of new adventures, and of building a life filled with love and laughter. The road ahead was uncertain, but with Mark by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came our way. The affair with Tom, the guilt, the heartbreak, it all seemed like a distant memory now. A painful but transformative experience that had ultimately led me to appreciate what I had and work towards a brighter future. Life was unpredictable, but that's what made it beautiful. And as I held my daughter close, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, as